Hello everyone, welcome to our HEAL 3180 research project. We will be exploring social conditions for couples in therapy by hypothesizing, asking questions, viewing research and data, applying SPSS knowledge, and analyzing our results. We hope you enjoy the experience.
A key theme throughout our assignment is social conditions, which leave us to answer what are social conditions exactly. Social conditions are often the factors in an individual's social and physical environment that impact their lives on all levels. There are a number of reasons why marital satisfaction is so important. One of them being is that marital satisfaction is often an indicator of life satisfaction and family performance. Another one being is that marriage is often a primary source of support for couples. This partnership acts as a protective factor against physical and psychological illness. In addition, marital satisfaction affects work success and social communication. And lastly, low marital satisfaction is often the main cause of divorce. Listed below are different social conditions that affect marital satisfaction in couples. These include age at marriage, duration of marriage, number of children, gender, religiosity, education levels, economic status, and cultural considerations. The social conditions that we chose to focus on in our research are education levels, age gaps, and duration of marriage. So to help explain our data today, we have created a scenario between a couple and a therapist. Within this scenario, Mr. and Mrs. Smith are struggling from relationship problems and are feeling quite upset in their marriage. They feel as though there are social conditions that are affecting their marriage, and due to this, they are seeking marriage counseling from a therapist in hopes to work through their issues. In order to get a better understanding, they explain their problems to the therapist. Their first problem is that Mr. Smith believes that therapy will work better for him than his wife because he has received a higher education. Mr. Smith thinks male clients with higher levels of education will score significantly higher on the marital satisfaction scale at the completion of therapy, and this is why he believes it may not be as beneficial for his wife. Alongside Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith has her own concerns as well. Mrs. Smith believes that since Mr. Smith is 10 years older than her, it may affect the duration of their marriage. As a result of that, Mrs. Smith believes there is a negative correlation between older males and the duration of relationships. Lastly, Mr. Smith had one more problem to address. Mr. Smith believes that due to his wife's lower education, that was the reason that they struggled to communicate. Mr. Smith often states that Mrs. Smith, due to a lower education, is not able to communicate well with him. Mr. Smith believes there is an association between lower education and communication skills.
The therapist then introduces a local study done on couples' marital satisfaction to optimize alliance in couple therapy. The therapist looks at the study to see if Mr. and Mrs. Smith's concerns have been identified in the study. This study is centered on the social conditions of couples that affect marital satisfaction and the working alliance. The study recruited 47 heterosexual couples. The study was done to understand the relationship between alliance and outcome in couples therapy. The two measures used were the marital satisfaction skill and working alliance inventory.
Hypothesis 1. Mr. Smith thinks since he has higher education, he will score significantly higher on the MMS at the completion of therapy than those who do not have higher education. So now we will figure out how to answer Mr. Smith's question. To begin, we looked at male education. When we looked at it, there was 3 different categories. 1 for elementary school, 2 for high school, and 3 for post-secondary education. Male education was then recoded into a different variable, and we do this so we don't lose the previous data. We recoded the data into 2 different groups. The first category contained elementary school and high school, which showcased lower education, and the second category consisted of post-secondary education. Now the mean scores of the 2 categories were examined. The mean for variable 1 was 151.71 the mean for variable 2 was 155.38. Since the mean scores are close, this implies that there may not be a significance. To be certain, however, we computed an independent sample t-test where education was the grouping variable and 6-session male MMS total test was the test variable. The grouping variable was set to 1 for elementary school and high school and 2 for post-secondary education. We then looked at the two-tailed significance, which is the p-value. The significant value is set at 0.05. The p-value was 0.710, and this implies that the results were not significant. There is no difference between male clients having higher or lower levels of education and impact on the MMS at completion of therapy. The therapist informed Mr. Smith that having higher education has no difference on his outcome of therapy.
Hypothesis 2. There is a significant correlation between male clients who are older and the number of years together in their relationship than those male clients who are younger. We used correlation. First, we determined the mean for the age of the male clients. Then, based on these results, we recoded the male clients' age in 2 categories. Group 1 had male clients from ages 0 to 41, and Group 2 had male clients from ages 42 and older. Second, we did bivariate correlation testing the recoded men clients' age and years together. The results here indicated the p-value to be 0.000 and the p-value scale is set at 0.001, which means the results were significant. The Pearson's correlation is 0.858, which is a positive result, indicating that as male age increases, the number of years together in the relationship increases as well. Then, the therapist showed Mr. and Mrs. Smith the results and explained to them that there is a positive correlation between men who are older and the duration of their relationship.
Lastly, we will look at if Mrs. Smith having lower education than Mr. Smith actually has an association with their biggest issue in the relationship, which is communication. Before we start, it is important to look at how female education is split up in this data set. It is split into 3 values. First is elementary school education, which has value 1. Second is high school education, which has value 2. Lastly is post-secondary education, which has value 3. This will help us during the select cases process. The first thing we have to do in order to determine the association between the 2 variables is select cases. By doing so, we will be able to categorize females in the study that only completed elementary school education and high school education, which will indicate the females that have lower education. So we will separate females that went to post-secondary from the females that only went to elementary school or went to high school. After clicking Select Cases, we need to further click on if condition is satisfied to be able to compute lower education for females. Once Select Cases is completed, it will look like this. The crosses indicate females that have post-secondary education and are not being included when we compute the results for the chi-square. Now we can compute the chi-square by moving over the female education variable and presenting problem number 1 variable, which is communication. Before clicking OK, to compute the chi-square, we need to click on Statistics and check mark chi-square. Then we are now ready to compute the results. We have now computed the results. Let's take a look at the first table. This indicates the number of females that only have completed elementary school education, which is 1 female, and the number of females that have completed high school education, which is 12 females. Now, to determine if the results are significant or not, let's take a look at the chi-square table, which will help us understand the association between the 2 variables. The value we need to look at is the asymptomatic significance, which, according to this table, is 0.955. This value is greater than the p-value, which is 0.05, which means the results are not significant and there is no association between the two variables. After computing and understanding the results, the therapist will inform Mr. and Mrs. Smith that from the study conducted, females having lower education does not have an association with communication problems occurring in relationships for couples.
Hypothesis 1. We will accept the null hypothesis because the t-test resulted in a p-value of 0.710. As this value is greater than 0.05, it implies that is not significant. Therefore, there is no difference between male clients with higher levels of education scoring significantly higher on the MSS at the completion of therapy than those male clients with less education. Hypothesis 2. We will reject the null hypothesis because the results from the correlation indicated the p-value to be 0.000. As this is less than 0.05, the results are significant. Therefore, there is a significant correlation between male clients who are older and the number of years together in their relationship than those male clients who are younger. Hypothesis 3. We will accept the null hypothesis because the p-value from doing a chi-square is 0.955. As this is greater than 0.05, it implies that the results are not significant. Therefore, there is no association between females who had lower education and the presenting problem of communication. We picked an article that analyzed the social conditions of couples that affected marital satisfaction and working alliance. Data in the study was collected from 7,767 individuals in 33 different countries. The results from the study supported two of our hypotheses. After analyzing the data collected from Canadian men in the study, the average marriage duration of males over 40 is 15.7 years, while the average marriage duration of males under 40 is 5.4 years. This supports our hypothesis that there is an association between male clients who are older and the number of years in their relationship than those who are younger. When analyzing the same data set of Canadian men, the study concludes that participants who have a bachelor or master's degree scored an average of 16.4 on the KSS, whereas Canadian men who have less than a bachelor degree scored an average of 15.5 on the KSS. The KSS was a 7-point scale measuring marital satisfaction. This supports the hypothesis that male clients with significantly higher levels of education have a higher marriage satisfaction.
This research has brought a lot of issues and challenges to light for couples that are in therapy. The research has allowed us to understand certain relationships between variables and data such as client education and its impact on the outcome of therapy. This research, however, is quite limited and requires further expansion.
Some recommendations we make are that much more research is needed in this field. Research surrounding more diverse couples is needed, as this research only included heterosexual couples. Including more couples from various LGBTQ backgrounds can allow the understanding of different relationships and how therapy can impact them. Also, including other participants that may be in different socioeconomic status, visible minorities, and even more vulnerable populations. This can then allow us to understand the impact of social conditions and determinants of health and their impact on relationships and the effects of therapy.
Working through this research project, we have learned the importance of conducting research studies, statistical analysis, and understanding the steps of the research process. Research allows us to fill the missing gaps, create new theories, contribute to developing knowledge, and much more. Through this project, we have understood how to identify the problem, create new hypotheses, review existing literature, and analyze the data to determine if our hypotheses are significant or not, and most importantly, how to use SPSS to compute our results. We now understand the process of conducting research and have a new appreciation of how important research is for healthcare. As nurses, we will be surrounded by research at all times to improve treatment options, increase knowledge on human health, prevent disease, determine best practices, improve quality of care, and much more. This class has given us a new perspective on research from a nursing angle, and we will apply everything we learned to our own nursing practice. Thank you for listening, everyone. We hope you enjoyed our presentation. If you have any questions, please ask away.